Today, we are the only country in the world that sentences people under the age of 18 to life without possibility of parole.
If 100 of you graduate high school, maybe only 8 graduate from college. That's the data currently. 8 out of 100. That's not good enough.
School to prison pipeline is the idea is this goes back to the punitive, like you punish students, you don't work with students, you just punish them and remove them from the system because somehow they're not conducting themselves in the way they should be, right? And so restorative justice puts a halt to that and says no, this is a human being here. This is a human being with things that they're responding to in their environment. So restorative justice will, in my opinion, is designed to stop the flow of youth being labeled, sent to juvenile hall, sent to prison, and which they no longer contribute in a positive way to our community.
As a school attendance, as a PSA counselor with LAUZ, I had many success stories. Unfortunately, as a PSA counselor, I addressed a lot of students who were not coming to school. And one of the remedies that the district has for that is a school attendance review team at school sites and the school attendance review boards, which really enforce the mandate of Educational Code 48200, compulsory attendance. When students are not attending, they're violating the law, and the parent is held accountable. So we have hearings. You have hearings, kids who have missed months of school, truancies, and so forth.
Example. So say a student is, he's out, he's not in class, he's walking around, he gets in trouble, they pat him down, they find like drugs on him, right? And then he gets pulled into the office, an officer comes in, and it seems like when that happens, they either get suspended and they have to do all these things, right? I think the students already start getting a record, and I think a lot of students, once they get a record, a lot of times they're already like starting they start doing like a cycle. They do a trend, like they come in, they get in trouble, they're already on the record, right? And they almost feel like they're a problem already, right? And so sometimes they get services, but I think that once they get pulled in again, that's on their record, they're like, oh, I'm in trouble again. And it's almost like they're being set up to almost be criminalized. And so I think it's just like a way for like people that discipline to get rid of the problem quick, to get it off their hands quick. And it's a simple solution for the people in power, but it's not a simple solution for the person that's actually being disciplined. And so they don't just get rid of it. It's on their record. The cop just moves on to the next person they take it, or the dean or whatever. And so it's like not even part of their life anymore. They go to the next kid and the next kid. Whereas that youth has to deal with that issue, and sometimes they don't get the resources to deal with that issue.
We are the country that incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. Nobody locks up more people than the United States. Today, we are the only country in the world that sentences people under the age of 18 to life without possibility of parole. If that's the cost, and when we talk about cost, you know, there's a human cost, but the financial cost of $10 billion a year, that's the budget for our prison system, $10 billion a year. We spend more on prisons than we do on higher education. So if people say, okay, but I'm willing to spend $10 billion because that's what, you know, keeps my kids safe from those monsters. But the reality is it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So out of every 10 people who get out of prison, within 3 years, 7 people are going to get locked up again. So that's a 70% failure rate.
We know that we have rates, I don't know the exact rate right now of dropouts. We know that most of the dropouts from our schools are not generally achieving. So we have maybe more kids going to prison or, the jail. Restorative justice. It comes under the Discipline Foundation policy that LAUSD initiated this school year. What that means is that it's a new way of looking at discipline in our schools. It began in Oakland actually, and it started in Oakland School District and is now being utilized here in LAUSD. What it is a goal of, instead of sending kids to jail, or being ticketed or given a citation for minor infractions, they're provided with interventions so that they can get on the right track, in a sense.
I've been learning about restorative justice, which to me seems like a very good model. And so restorative justice is a model where you have young people that might get in trouble, but instead of the traditional punitive discipline, it's a different model where you actually try to get to the root of the problem and get the students to if they get in trouble, quote unquote trouble, right? They actually have to participate in things like circles where they have to talk about what's going on with them. They have to address the people that they victimized, and they get deeper into solving the issues. So I think that's a better discipline model.
So my definition of restorative justice, when I hear that word out loud, I think to myself in my head, higher graduation rates, less criminalization of youth, less suspensions, less in-school suspensions, and more student involvement. Before, when I first started high school, kind of isolating myself. I wasn't really social with anybody. I was really kind of shy, nervous. I didn't really speak to teachers that much. But over the year, I started kind of gaining a little bit more of, as you can say, I was brave. I was starting to talk more. I didn't see myself as graduating because of what I was going through at the time, what I was barely transitioning from.
This model of restorative justice is getting a lot more attention because there are more and more school districts that are realizing that just kicking kids out of school and putting them on that track to juvenile hall does not work. So the practices that some of the schools that are adopting restorative justice policies of bringing the young people together to talk about their problems, to talk about, the hurt that was caused to one another, and really making them a part of the solution with understanding adults is the way to go. And it's not just having circles, it's not just doing the practices, but it's everyone from the principal on down to the person who's cleaning to understand the value of our children and to work with them and interact with them on a daily basis. So it's not just adopting restorative justice practices, it's adopting a different culture that really values our young people, one that says we're never going to give up on them. Expulsions is not a part of our school. We're going to find out what the problems are, where are they coming from, and what kind of help, and that's what we're committed to.
What the district can do to support students and families is currently to expand the Family Source program, to expand the Youth Source program that's at Para los Niños. These programs work directly in the community. They provide statistical data showing that there is need and that the community and students are accessing these services. But we're only 13 of us in the whole district of LAUSD. We need to expand that. There needs to be better and more support for service provision at the city agencies, meaning more funding to bring more programs, to have more therapists here, to have more parenting classes here, to have more tutoring programs here that directly affect your progress in schools. So I think that that's what's needed at this point.
said, like a lot more student involvement. People like as teachers and administrators, staff around the school, speaking to students, having a more better relationship, connecting, making connections, because a lot of us maybe we don't have people that we can look up to. So that's why it's great to have students have good connections and relationship with people that they can trust.
We have a program that we call Healing Dialogues in Action, and it's a very powerful program where we bring together parents who had a loved one murdered, a child murdered, with parents who have a child serving a life sentence in prison. And we bring together groups of 30 people, 15 on one side, 15 on the other. And then we break up into small groups of 4 and 6. And so you have in a small group maybe 3 moms who had their child murdered with 3 moms who have their child serving a life sentence in prison. And they share their stories. And if you were to walk into the room and listen to them, you'd have a hard time figuring out, wait, is she the mom who has a kid locked up or the mom who has a kid dead? Because the pain is so similar. The desire for healing is so similar. And what happens is that you have these moms now listening to one another, and that's where they identify in each other in that journey of pain and struggle. And they see each other in that desire to heal. And they feel empathy for one another and they support one another. And there is so much more healing done there, not because I'm saying so, but because moms have told me this. Moms have told me, my son was killed 12 years ago, and I've been to every type of therapy you can imagine. Nothing has helped me more than to sit across with this other mom and listen to her story.
They don't even know that I believe in them, because I was once that youth where they didn't believe in this kid. And he's like a travieso kid. But they didn't really know me. They didn't really understand me. They didn't reach out to me. So that's why I feel like it's my responsibility as an adult in this community to reach out to you and to get to know who you are as much as I can. So that once I'm able to understand who you are, then we build a relationship, right? Because I'm gonna need you. I need you. All these adults in this community need you, whether they admit it or not, because you have so much wisdom and knowledge that you probably don't even value, that you don't understand that it's so valuable to you and to our community. And so when I think about our youth, I get the first word that comes up is hopeful, because I know that there's a lot of stuff that you're dealing with. I know. But also at the same time, you have the resiliency, you have the support, you have a lot of adults in this community that would support you. It's just, figuring it out, navigate it, how are you gonna arrive there?
What I want people to know from this documentary is that innovative programs like the current one with LAUSD, the Family Source Program, are unique, the first of its kind, and they need to expand. It needs to reflect the needs of a community and of a culture. It needs to reflect the needs of the language, being bilingual, English and Spanish. It needs to provide direct services that are in the community, culturally relevantly based, and that as a foundation and focus is driven to improve academic achievement for our kids. Latino students, unfortunately, out of 100 students, maybe, I forgot what the numbers are, but if 100 of you graduate high school, maybe only 8 graduate from college. That's the data currently. 8 out of 100. That's not good enough. You are our future. We need you. We need you in places, in the professions where it matters.
Young people and teachers push for restorative justice on their campuses so we could create change on campus. But it's going to take a movement of people to push for it, and it's going to take a lot of hard work. I'm willing to stand up for the challenge, but I want everyone else to stand up for the challenge, because our youth are asking for it. Maybe they're not saying it, but their actions are asking for it. So I really want us to create change in our schools.
Yes. I really do believe that the hope lies in this generation. It inspires me when I come and spend some time and listen to the young voices, and that you would be so alarmed and feel discomfort over knowing how we treat your peers. And I really do believe that positive changes will continue to come, and will continue to correct this wrong path that we've been going down for so many decades now. And I thank you for that.